Hello friends, welcome to Lucifer Talks, and I'm sure you're doing well. Today's topic might be of interest to a lot of people, and some people might not like it. So, a lot of you might have heard about author columnist late Sardar Khushwant Singh. So Khushwant Singh is known for his courage, outspoken personality, and he has an astonishing track record of uttering words which no one else will ever dare to. So this video is around Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and late Sardar Khushwant Singh Ji's take on it. So the video is made for educational and discourse purposes and not targeted at any community. So everyone has the right of freedom of speech and expression, and through this video I'm using that very right given by the Constitution. So one community's right cannot be over another community matter. So let's keep talking, sharing and entertaining with such discourses. So this is about India and what happened there. So through the 1970s and 80s, Hindu-Sikh tension continued to bedevil the Punjab. They came to a head with the rise of Sikh fundamentalists under Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, who led terrorist activities against Punjabi Hindus in the early 1980s. So Khuswant Singh recalling walking up to the Manji Sahib Gurudwara adjoining the Golden Temple to listen to Akali leaders. There must have been over 20,000 Sikhs sitting on the ground, around 5 to 10,000 standing around. On the dais beside the Granth Sahib sat the elite Akali party Sant Harcharan Singh Longowal, Jathedar Tohra, Prakash Singh Badal, and the shining star of the rally was Jarnail Singh Bhindrawale. So Tohra spotted Khuswant Singh from the crowd and sent his men to fetch him. Very reluctantly, Khuswant Singh allowed himself to be dragged along and found himself seated in the front row between the Granth Sahib and the microphone. Most of the speeches that followed were directed at Sardar Khushwant Singh. After one fiery speech followed another one, the crowd became restless and clamored from Bhindrawale. At last, he came to the microphone amid thunderous cries of "Bole so nihal, Sat Sri Akal." He was a tall, lean man with fiery eyes and a long, flowing beard. In his left hand, he held a silver arrow, the sort seen in the pictures of Guru Gobind Singh and Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji. A bandolier charged with bullets across his chest. He had a pistol attached in its holster and held a 4-foot-long kirpan in his right hand. Bhindrawale had never seen Khuswant, and Sardar Singh heard him turn to one of his cronies and ask, "Hai kaun hai?" Who is he? Khuswant Singh heard his name mentioned. Bhindrawale knew his name and also knew Khuswant had written against him. Khuswant Singh had issued instructions that the prefix Sant, which is saint, was not to be used with his name in any reference to mentioning Bhindrawale. After noticing Khuswant Singh, Bhindrawale's speech too was addressed at him. "I don't know this Sardar Singh sitting near my feet, but people tell me he's the editor of some English paper called Hindustan Times. I can't speak English. I'm told he writes that I created hatred between Sikhs and Hindu. This is a lie. I am a preacher. I go from village to village telling Sikhs to come back to the path of the 10th Guru. I tell them to stop clipping beards, to refrain from taking opium and smoking tobacco. I baptized them into Khalsa Panth." There were loud cries of "Sat Sri Akal" to express approval at this. Bhindrawale warmed to his theme. "If I had my way, you know what I would do to all these Sardars who drink whiskey shisky every evening? I would douse them in kerosene oil and set fire to the bloody lot." The announcement was greeted with prolonged cries of Bole so nihal, Sat Sri Akal. It was ironic that the vast majority of the audience applauding him were Sikh Jats, notorious for their addiction to hard liquor. Bhindrawale's speech would refer to Mrs. Indira Gandhi as Panditati, Brahmani, that Pandit's daughter. Hindus were totiyan topiyan wale, those who wear dhotis and caps. Bhindrawale was entrenched in the Akal Takht, and his armed bodyguards had the run of the Golden Temple complex and were more than eager to bump off anything their leader wanted or anyone their leader wanted out of the way. Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale was the creation of the Congress and the Akalis. Indira Gandhi was advised by President Jarnail Singh that this small-time Kattar hardline Sikh preacher should be built up as a leader to counter the ruling Akalis in Punjab. But soon enough, Akalis tried to woo Bhindrawale away from their rivals and prompt him up. In the time he became the monster who would run around and destroy the very people who created him and plunge the Punjab and much of the country in chaos. Congress tried to exploit his popularity, so did the Akalis. When Bhindrawale shifted to the Golden Temple and his goons began killing innocent people, his admirers dismissed the allegations as government propaganda to them. He was a good guy. Maybe he was. Even as Hindus were being pulled out of the buses and shot and transistor bombs were going off in crowded markets all over northern India, Sikh pride was at its height. In words of Khuswant Singh, he warned the government against sending the army into Golden Temple because it would rouse the anger of entire Sikh community. He told, "You don't know the Sikhs." He told that to the Home Minister P.C. Sethi, a peace-loving Jan. They can be like a swarm of hornets. You put your head in their nest and you will be stung all over your face. Indira Gandhi's advisors were Rajiv Gandhi, Arun Nehru, Arjun Singh and Digvijay Singh, and they were equal contributor in sending army into the Golden Temple. The time when the army stormed the Golden Temple with tanks, armored cars and forgemen with helicopters hovering overhead to give directions, the battle that lasted 2 days and nights in the crossfire, almost 5,000 men, women and children perished. The Akal Takht was reduced to rubble by the heavy gunfire. The central shrine was reduced to rubble by over 70 bullets. The entrance had a large portion blasted off. A few months later, on the 31st October 1984, Indira Gandhi was slain by one of her Sikh bodyguards. Terrible results followed. In towns and cities across Indo-Gangetic Plain and down to Karnataka, frenzied mobs led by Congress leaders took a heavy toll of Sikh life and property. Delhi alone, over 300 Sikhs were burnt alive and 70 Gurudwaras were wrecked. To a sizable section of the Sikhs, he has become Amar Shaheed, eternal martyr, who laid down his life for Khalsa Panth. And he still continues to be venerated as Sant Baba Jarnail Singh Khalsa Bhindrawale. It will not be easy to exorcise Bhindrawale's ghost from Punjab, and Punjabi mind, concluded late Khuswant Singh. Sikhs are our wonderful friends, and we are proud that the legacy of Sikhism originated from India. Followers of Hindu faith consider Sikhism as part of their own. Ask any Hindu and they will be proud of our Sikh brothers and sisters. The provocative speeches and mindset of a particular section of society has brought destruction from Akalis to Congress, but they have played an equal role in the Sikh genocide and aftermath of that after Indira Gandhi's assassination. If Punjab of India had gone to Pakistan, then probably by today the history of Sikhs would have been wiped up. looking at the status of minority in Pakistan. Sikhs are prosperous and will continue to do well in India. Our Sikh brothers based in US, UK, Canada, Australia and developed countries should rethink where all the donation money from the Gurudwaras is being sent to and how it's being used. The money sent to some countries in purchase or pushing drugs in the borders of India and the province of Punjab is the worst hit because of that. History cannot be rewritten. Instead of living in the past, we all need to help develop Punjab and the history of the Gurus. All Sikh brothers should invest in Punjab and India's growth and directly send investments for creating hospitals, schools, orphanages, research centers in India, and this is the best way they will help in promoting Sikhism, which would be loved and adored by all. We all are proud of the Sikh roots of India, and the Punjabiyat is that we have a big heart, and whatever happened in the past, we need to let it go and start again from the very new step of the chapter of our life. So friends, this was mainly from Khuswant Singh's take on what he thought about Bhindrawale and how Bhindrawale was created by the Congress and Akalis, and how the poor illiterates were being fooled by these parties and their emotions were played by these parties, and whatever happened in the end was not good for these common people of Punjab and for the Sikh Panth. So united we all will stay stronger, and as a fellow Punjabi I'll say that we all need to stay in peace and harmony, be it Hindu or Sikhs. We are brothers and our history cannot be replaced, and the hatred has no space in our life, and we should not put any kind of hatred in the mindset of our next generations. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel till now, so I'll request you to subscribe to Lucifer Talks, like the video, subscribe it, so you will be able to get more messages from me, more videos on valuable topics. Take care and goodbye for now.